everything has a source, the essence of where you start. For some, it might be inspiration or discovery that drives it. For others, fueled by determination and a passion to protect our own. That relentless drive to seek answers by searching for hidden truths. And where it leads tells the whole story. Getting involved, getting together, getting it right. Go to the source.
Yet Mosley still sat Tuesday night in West Buchel's City Council meeting, 7 months after closing on her Taylorsville home.
My name is Gilbert Corsi. I work with WDRB News.
And we asked why.
Turn it off.
We're on a public property and we're going to have to ask you these questions on the record, ma'am.
She's not happy to see us or to talk about the deed we uncovered to the West Buchel property she sold at 3707 Marvin Avenue.
I am not doing anything illegal, sir.
She says she's happily married for 41 years, and we even saw her husband Wayne outside of their new Taylorsville home. But Mosley claims she splits her nights among this place in Spencer County and 3 different houses on her old West Buchel block.
Now I reside at 3704, but there's times I stay at the house next door to that one that my niece owns. And then I stay at 3737 Marvin.
She says she was willed the home at 3704 Marvin by her late grandmother and shares the property with her siblings. So we checked every Jefferson County deed, every mortgage, and every property tax listing in Councilwoman Mosley's name.
So first of all, your question to me is, do they own any other property?
In West Buchel.
In West Buchel. From the information that we both seen is no.
No other home listed in Mosley's name in West Buchel, but we found something else at the clerk's office.
Ma'am, if you live at 3704 Marvin, then why did you switch your voter registration to Spencer County?
Because really, if you need to talk to somebody, talk to the city attorney.
Well, ma'am, I'm talking to you. You were elected, and it seems at this point in time that you're serving in one place and voting in another place.
I'm not voting anywhere.
When you switch your voter registration, you're telling the state that's where you live, aren't you?
No.
The Q&A goes on about 5 minutes. Councilwoman Mosley, in her 4th term, denies wrongdoing and boasts about her city accomplishments.
There they are right there, right on the skin.
A hot area for illegal crossings and drug seizures.
The guys under the tree. What you got, Mike? I got one right here. The guys under the tree.
WDRB was embedded with Border Patrol agents along the Texas-Mexico border for 3 days to see how they try to stop the drug pipeline from coming into the U.S.
There's about 300 pounds of marijuana here. The street value is $240,000.
Air and marine operations worked with Border Patrol, staging in different areas as the drug smugglers dropped the dope.
There were 6 men. All of them were each carrying one of these bundles.
2 men were arrested. As you can see, the other men jumped into the river to swim back to Mexico, knowing agents wouldn't chase them in the water. Drug seizures like this are common here.
They have scouts, they have the mules, they have the person's lookouts, people that are looking out. So everybody's got a little job on their end over there. But again, that's not in any way gonna stop us from doing our job.
This is the Rio Grande. It's 316 river miles separating America and Mexico. Right here, it's about a few hundred feet wide, making it easy for people to raft and swim across into the U.S.
A WDRB News alert this morning. A massive water main break has been reported near Shelby Park.
Images are incredible. WDRB's Hayden Rostevsky is live at Oak and Jackson Streets where water is rising. Hayden?
Good morning. We have moved since we last talked to you. We have moved to as close as we can get to the corner of Clay and Oak. This is the source of this massive water main break that is flooding several streets in the Shelby Park neighborhood.
This is Clay Street right here, and actually water is still probably about ankle deep, but probably the best view of this comes from the WDRB Skycam. As we go up here with the Skycam, you can see upwards over Shelby Park as we're looking at the flooding throughout this area.
We start tonight with a WDRB News Alert. Kentucky State Representative Dan Johnson has reportedly committed suicide.
This comes just one day after he denied accusations of child molestation. We have crews across the area tonight as the story is still developing.
We begin with WDRB's Sarah Sidery, who's in his hometown of Mount Washington, where that reported suicide happened. Sarah.
This bridge behind me is where investigators say Representative Dan Johnson appears to have committed suicide tonight. This comes just one day after Johnson denied allegations of sexual molestation. Bullitt County Sheriff Donnie Tennell says Johnson shot himself on the bridge once under his chin.
The sign out here says Satan accuses, God says you're not guilty. State Representative Dan Johnson dismissed the claims made against him yesterday right here at his church. On Monday, the chairman of the Republican Party of Kentucky called for Representative Johnson to resign. It came after a report emerged accusing him of sexually molesting a 17-year-old girl in a church basement in 2012. Johnson fought back the accusation when he spoke yesterday at the Heart of Fire Church, where he was the pastor.
The president comes to Louisville with a message for the people.
I made a lot of promises to the miners, and I'm keeping those promises. So I wanted to come back here and tell them that.
WDRB, the only local station to dig deeper and sit down with the commander-in-chief.
Your health care bill. Senator Rand Paul, not a fan of it.
He means it. He's speaking from the heart.
Big stories, big coverage.
I'll be back to Kentucky a lot.
That's WDRB News. See the uncut interview on WDRB.com.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Lindsay Allen.
And I'm David Scott. Donald Trump visits Louisville as the president for the first time tonight.
We have team coverage tonight with WDRB's Travis Ragsdale live at Freedom Hall. But first, President Trump gave an interview to only one Louisville reporter while he was here, and that was to our very own WDRB's Lawrence Smith. Lawrence, I'm sure there were a million questions you had for him, but what did you get to talk about?
Only about 3 questions, about time for that much, but we got just about 5 minutes or less with the president, but he was clearly anxious to get outside the Washington bubble and talk about Kentucky issues. Your visit comes on the heels, of course, of the vice president coming here to Louisville.
Right.
Why'd the focus on Kentucky?
Well, I've been with them and they've been with me. Kentucky has been one of our great states, and I love the people of Kentucky. The miners, we're putting them back to work. We've already signed legislation, you saw, environmentally, that allows the mines to start reopening and keep open. And I made a lot of promises to the miners, and I'm keeping those promises. So I wanted to come back here and tell them that.
The president also here to sell his plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. And one person he has to convince is Kentucky U.S. Senator Rand Paul. Paul has been a vocal opponent of the GOP plan, calling it Obamacare light. How much do you need Senator Rand Paul to support this, and what are you prepared to do to get that support?
Well, having Rand is a good thing. I like Rand Paul. I think he's a good guy, and he means it. He's speaking from the heart.
So we've got Katie McGraw, Jeremy Capel. We've been assessing everything. Let's kind of run through a laundry list of real problems that we've had and what we are going to have. We have the flooding, we have the lightning, some tree limbs down.
A lot, actually, across the area. That seems like it's been the biggest problem on cars, on homes, on roads, blocking roads.
Read some recent reports of trees and power lines down in both Irvington and also Vine Grove, Kentucky.
You can see that little notch developing right underneath the A of Paoli. There we go. Perfect. I mean, textbook kind of hook echo. Let's hold this for 1 second. Because at 5:36 in the morning, there was wind spinning in underneath this, and that really bright, concentrated area of red was the first sign of a tornado forming, a possible tornado forming.
This is where a trailer used to sit. I don't know if it's a storage trailer, not a livable trailer, but then right there it is now. You can see where the fence row, where it flipped over on its edge. You can see where it hit the edge there and then rolled maybe 5 times before it ended up in the middle of this field here.
Behind me is a home that was hit by this storm damage, severe storm damage around 6:30 this morning. You can see there is a tree on the home, and I'm actually joined by Tracy Hart. She lives here with her family. And Tracy, just kind of go over what happened, what you saw, what you heard.
Okay, around 6:30 this morning, my daughter Brianna called me and she told me that there was a tornado warning headed toward us and that we need to get to a safe spot. So we got the kids from upstairs, and the hole that you see in the roof is over my son's room where he was studying at.
Look at this one from Amanda Mitchell Crawford, Turner Station, Kentucky. This is what used to be our barn. And then we have this one from Missy. This is a tree, top of a tree in her front yard in Madison, Indiana. Overnight, just in the last 24 hours, not counting this latest round of storms in this area, 20 tornadoes were reported across the Midwest in Missouri.
When you ride into Rabbit Hash, Kentucky, you're thrust back in time.
I love this place.
Yeah, you guys made me ride all the way down there and come back up here.
Porches, still hangouts for young guys to talk girls.
As soon as they broke up, another guy. 634.
The general store.
This is 34 cents. Thank you.
Or a one-stop shop for anything you need.
Oh, that's all right.
Every town, no matter how small, needs a leader.
That's crazy.
And after a rough election, this spot on the banks of the Ohio has one.
She's very outgoing.
She's really nice.
She has the best smile that I've ever seen.
There's always inappropriate licking going on.
Wait, what?
It's a pit bull.
You heard her.
Well, that's interesting.
It's funny.
What is this?
This treat-loving, woods-exploring good girl is Mayor Brenneth Paltrow.
I'll tell you, it sounds like one of those millennial names.
Oh. Now you have to be a good girl.
After pledging to sniff out the community's problems with a little help from her best friend.
I'm Bryn's human.
Oh, she's so good.
She won the election a few months back. The competition stiff, kind of a zoo, really.
There was a cat and the chicken, the donkey.
Bryneth took them all down without much more than a bark. Believe it or not, this pooch isn't the first leader with 4 legs to be unleashed on this small town.
Bryn is the 4th dog mayor.
It started back in the late 1990s as a fundraiser. We charge you $1 for your vote. We allow you to vote as often as you want.
Guys everywhere.
Coming up in a few minutes, 60s and 70s, and your hour-by-hour trick-or-treat forecast. That's what we have for you. Mike Marshall, how are we looking with traffic?
What's going on?
One of my favorite jams, ladies and gentlemen. Love it, love it, love it. You know, Halloween's not just for kids. Look at Danny Geary. Some of these costumes are just fantastic. Really appreciate everyone sending in the photos via Facebook and Twitter. How about this one? Little Bones. How about we just poke those bones? Poke those bones. Happy Halloween, everyone.
It's Super Bowl week, and we are getting ready for WDRB's world-famous Mascot Bowl.
I'm gonna win, baby.
Tomorrow, see how the mascots rank in our one-of-a-kind combine.
You don't want to pull anything when you're punting.
Watch all the flops.
And who's on top. Wake up with WDRB tomorrow.
Mascot Bowl 10! In the Mascot Bowl, it's the thrill of victory and the agony of big feet.
Some of the most animated athletes in town came together for Mascot Bowl 10. Keith?
I think this is one of the most animated athletes we have out here, too. Eric Crawford, WDRB Sports. Rick Bozich over there. Katie George, also from WDRB Sports. And a lot of action this morning here.
A little too much action sometimes. That rooster is ripped. This is an unorthodox formation. They're just trying to confuse them with their...
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
Buddy Bat. He's not going down without a fight. The Bat taking...
He's going through.
Look at that. Oh! I think, did he cross the goal line? No! Goal line stance. Goal line stance here. Here it goes. Think they're going for this one. The pizza slice just caught it. Oh, the truck almost got stopped by a truck. Oh, Rick Bozich is going to get hurt. We're going to go.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, no. Stay down. Stay down, humans. Oh, my goodness. Another touchdown for the Papa John's Pizza Slice. I think he's injured also.
Oh, my goodness.
Forget the touchdown. I need to know if Rick Bozich is okay. I mean, he is a very important part
of our
sports team. We need his skills as a sports journalist. We need his skills more of us as a sports journalist than we do in Mascot Bowl.
Last season, as Lamar Jackson soared to new heights, so too did the hopes of the Louisville Cardinals. Suddenly, they weren't just talking about winning the ACC, they were also talking about winning a national championship. But as the Cardinals soon discovered, to make it on the biggest stage in college football, perfection isn't merely recommended, it's practically required.
Toward the end zone, Catalan, touchdown!
It was a lesson learned the hard way on an off night in Houston, and it's one the team takes with them to Indianapolis today. It's the first steps of their journey. It's Louisville and Purdue, next on WDRB.
Good evening and welcome to Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis. This is usually the home of the Colts. Today it is the site of Louisville's opening game of the 2017 campaign. I'm Tom Lane along with Eric Crawford and Rick Bozich. 99th year of football for Louisville getting started tonight, and only one time previously have they played Purdue. We've got John Lewis and Katie George down on the field, some of the players starting to mill about. Let's take it down to them.
All right, in about an hour and a half, the defending Heisman winner will be out here on the field here in Indianapolis. And Katie, you would think that Lamar Jackson wouldn't have a lot to prove. When you take home that kind of hardware in college, you would think that's good enough for a resume. But one sports outlet in the preseason says he was not a top 5 returning college football player. Okay, that's fine. But then another sports outlet said he was not a top 5 returning college quarterback. You got to think that's going to be on his mind when he hits the field out here.
It has to be, not to mention he's a preseason All-American on the second team, not even the first team. The underappreciation for a Heisman Trophy winner is something that we've never seen when it comes to Lamar Jackson. Now, it is on his mind, but he's not paying a lot of attention, he says, to it. I got the chance to sit down with him one-on-one. Here's what he had to say to all of the haters.
Well, you know, last year I wasn't on any other list. That's just gonna start that off like that, you know. But it gonna turn into it turned into motivation, you know.
The venue doesn't matter in the end, but it does matter. This is a nice NFL type of venue that you're playing in. It's not a home game to open, but you should have a lot of fans there. Do you do anything special to prepare your players for that atmosphere at all?
You know, we've already started the noise in practice, which is something that's always a challenge. I think it's good to do it a couple weeks, not just game week. So we've worked hard on that.
WDRB News Alert. It's 12:45. We're 15 minutes away from a scheduled news conference at the University of Louisville regarding the future of Rick Pitino and Tom Jurich. We're expecting to hear from interim president at University of Louisville, Greg Postal, who met with both men this morning.
Now, press conference set to start here at 1 o'clock in Bigelow Hall. We want to turn our attention now to reporter Katrina Helmer, who was inside Bigelow Hall preparing for that news conference. Katrina.
Sterling, Candace, everyone is getting ready here for that press conference, like you said, just 15 minutes away. Behind me is the podium. That's where we expect to see interim President Greg Postal. You can see a line of media here, local, national media, all getting ready. This is in, like you said, Bigelow Hall.
We'll be keeping an eye on this all afternoon on Rick Pitino's situation. We know as of now he has been placed on administrative leave. We caught up with him earlier today as he did leave the building. He would not give us a comment on his situation. This is, in fact, what he told us as we asked him what is his status as head coach of the Louisville Cardinals. Coach, can you tell us anything?
You don't belong on this property.
Do you know if you're being fired today? Are you being fired, Coach? Thank you, Coach, for your time. I appreciate it.
Yes.
We're going to start over.
There's been confusion whether Tom Jurich or Rick Pitino have been fired. Who ultimately makes that decision? Is it the president of the university or the board of trustees?
Well, we'll hear from Greg Postal shortly. My assumption is he's been in touch with individual trustees. I don't think there's been any meeting because they would have to give notice for that kind of a meeting. I would assume he's been in touch with Governor Matt Bevin, even on something of this nature. He can make a decision unilaterally to place somebody on leave. But to fire individuals, for instance, in Rick Pitino's contract, it stipulates that he must be fired by the Board of Trustees or by a committee of the Board of Trustees. I don't think there's that same expectation of Tom Jurich, though he is a university vice president. You'd probably like to have trustee approval. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a trustee vote sometime in the coming days on both of these, just to show that university leadership is unified on this decision moving forward.
I think David Grissom is another name we need to mention. Yeah. He's the leading figure on the Board of Trustees who's been involved in a lot of this. He I think, and Greg Postal and Matt Bevin would be the three names to look at, but I think David Grissom is in the very front of this.
Remember that when Rick Pitino, or some of us old people will remember, when Rick Pitino came into UK, he had to rebuild that program, as you said, and then when he left it, top shelf. And then moved on to the Boston Celtics. But, here it appears that his career ends where he did get U of L to some great heights, to a Final Four, to a championship, and then, and then this happened. So it's almost ironic because I think he did have that in mind. And then if you go back to 2001, Tom, we remember that news conference where he said, his wife told him, Joanne said, "You love Kentucky." It was between Louisville and Michigan. He said, "You love Kentucky. Why not go back to the state you love and do what you love to do?" And that's why he ended up here.
Doing nothing would be a tacit endorsement of unethical and criminal behavior. Board Chairman Grissom and I spoke to both Athletic Director Tom Jurich and head men's basketball coach Rick Pitino this morning and informed them of the following decisions. Effective immediately, Coach Pitino has been placed on an unpaid administrative leave. Coach Pitino's employment will be reviewed at a later date. We will continue throughout this process to follow university personnel policies. Effective immediately, Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics Tom Jurich has been placed on a paid administrative leave.
And there it is, the historic moment we've all been waiting for. Just before 2:30 today, the moon crossed in front of the sun in a total solar eclipse.
The sky turned dark, the stars came out, and crickets started to chirp. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Elizabeth Woolsey.
And I'm Gilbert Corsi. This was The View in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and that's where we find Chief Meteorologist Mark Weinberg. Mark, an incredible experience out there today.
There's things that I've seen in my life. I've been storm chasing for 20 years. I've seen a category, I saw Katrina, I saw an EF5 tornado. And I have to say that of all the things I've ever seen, nothing really just blew me away like this did. It was a remarkable experience, not just for me. Experience it like everybody experienced it down here.
Heroes.
It's getting closer, and I took off the glasses, and it was like just immediately overwhelming, immediately emotional, immediately burst into tears.
Well, it happened so fast, and the 2 minutes and 40 seconds flew by like that.
Indescribable. I don't know. I feel like a new day, a new me. I didn't think it would be so spiritual.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It was an unbelievable experience. I can tell you, me personally, I felt the emotion of the moment. Watching the sky go completely dark, watching Mercury and Venus pop out from the sky, looking around you and you see basically in all directions a 360-degree sunset. There are so many experiences that made this unique. One of the things I think Gil and Elizabeth, a lot of people learned is like here in Hopkinsville where it was totality, there is a big difference between 96% and totality where it was absolutely remarkable.